Recording in Well, welcome to my podcast, The Great Alignment. And first of all, I would just like to acknowledge the audience and the people that come and listen to this wonderful information. I get many guests from many different ideas. And of course, it's keep an open mind. It's really important that we hear many different points of view of what's happening in the world right now. And and make sure that you subscribe down below to this channel, which goes on Grassroots Warrior Network first, and then it goes on to my channel, which is on Rumble, which is the Lightworkers Institute. And all of my shows are on there. There's 50 some already. And so, before I bring my guest on, I would just like to invite you to sign up on thelightworkersinstitute.com for my free ebook, which is The Body Never Lies. And it's like 30 pages of great information. And then you're put into a email campaign where I send out one email a week that gives you different tips that you can incorporate in your life. And I feel that giving people small things to do each week and practice those things that can bring their body into alignment so the light can shine through us. So welcome to the podcast. And like I say, without the audience, we have nothing. And so I really want to acknowledge you for being here. So we have a great guest today. So stay tuned. Well, welcome. This is, episode number 55. And 5 and 5 is 10, which is crown and brow. So, because I do a lot of numerology. And here again are part 2 of our episode with Wonder Bob, and he shared with so much information with us last time. And today, I believe, is going to talk about the Anunnaki, and if I'm saying that right, and Moses. So, we're in for a great show. And first of all, I would like to ask you, Bob, first of all, welcome here again. And you've been very busy in the last couple of weeks, I understand, and you had the Lions Gate. And so I'm wondering what happened on the Lions Gate, what came through,
Sure.
everything else in between.
So we do 2 things here in Crestone and at the Mystic Mountain Retreat House. One thing is we hike up to the super high, elevations and access the consciousness of not just the cosmos, but the higher dimensions. And then also there are we call them kachinas. They're rock people. They're these huge and ginormous forms that are in the mountain, and you can see them. And if you sit with them and meditate with them, they'll start to communicate with you. So a long time ago, I was directed to go to these very specific locations and receive the wisdom from these great beings that are literally in the mountains, and the Hopi, they sing them out and they call them kachinas. It's really pretty amazing. So I didn't really understand what the Hopis were doing until I did the work here, and then I was like, oh, I understand. So it seems really wild and crazy, but there, if you know that everything has consciousness, you can put your back against a tree and do a meditation with the tree. You can psychically connect to somebody across the planet. You can channel a stream, a planet, the sun, and also the mountains and the great beings that are there. So we've been instructed to access different locations on the mountain, and then what we do is we sit and do our prayers in those specific locations, and it sort of activates the area. It's really funny. It's almost like doing acupressure for the mountain. So we sit there with a group and we do our prayers, and then it's like, okay, now go over here, and then we do that. And we might go up to the high mountains and then bring those stones down and put them in sacred circles, and then we can continue the communication. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of work that's been done to open up the consciousness of the mountain. It was like dormant and sleeping, and we have to wake it up so that we can commune with it. And so been a tremendous amount of work that we've done, probably since 2012
Mm.
up to now, to do that. And the last few times we've gone up and done our meditation, the mountain's like, I am here, I am online, I'm connected to all that is, and we are ready to deliver, this energy and shakti to humanity. And that's what we're up to. The second part of the mission is to help people receive the Shakti that we're accessing. So that turns up in clearing the energetic field, connecting to source, centering multidimensionally, and then activating the Merkaba field so that we can actually get the energy through the body. And so that's what we're doing, and that's what we're up to. So one of the great beings that are on the mountain is Raphael, and Raphael is the green ray of healing energy. And so we when we did our group, it was so beautiful. I wish I could share it with you. It's just so wonderful and so beautiful, and words just don't do it justice. But so when we're all up there and we did our joint prayer, there's a place that we go to called the Holy Source Pool, and this really powerful green ray came out of the water and the mountain, and it flooded over all of us. And it's a healing ray, and this was kind of the ray of Archangel Raphael. And we just felt perfect. We felt peace and calm. And we're hiking, for 2 days to get up high enough to access these places. So it takes effort. And boy, I was really struggling because I had a lot of weight, but I got where I needed to get. And then all of that discomfort was just washed away. And and then we had this whole like cloud that came down, and it covered everything. It covered everything except for the water. And it's like focus on the water. And then on the bottom side of the cloud, this great lion's head came out,
Wow.
and it showed itself, on the bottom side of the cloud. And it was like, yeah, this is Lionsgate, and here we are. So, Lionsgate is an alignment, astrological alignment that occurs, with Sirius and the Orion star system. But anytime lions come around, I know them to be Lyrans, and it's from the Booth star system, and the Lyrans are the architects of the universe. So they're the ones that set up the systems and do the architecture and the building, and it's really beautiful. And then the Orions, come in and they set up their gates, and the Pleiadians are kind of more like scientists, and the Syrians are more like almost like computer programmers. They're very intellectual, that sort of thing. So it all the different groups really make a beautiful contribution. So I didn't get the whole message, and then I slept in my tent. And when I slept in my tent, my whole body was shaking and vibrating from this energy. So a lot of times when we get into a very powerful energetic space, our bodies will respond by shaking. And what it's doing is it's giving our cells an upgrade, with the Shakti. And then the message came through was, I am the healing ray, and we've accessed what we needed to access here. But in order for humanity to receive this quality, humanity needs help. It needs healing. And
Yeah.
so you just imagine all of the genetic manipulation we've survived, the foolishness, um, just the personal attacks through all of our many incarnations, being hurt, wounded, drawn and quartered, stoned, head chopped off, thrown into the arenas to be killed ritually, dungeons. I mean, you name it, like we've been tortured. So all of that PTSD is in our bodies. And so
And
the thing is like, let's heal that. Let's clear that out. Because if you're, if you got an open gash on your leg and somebody's trying to, give you some sort of information, it's just not possible. They're going like, I'm in pain and it hurts. I got to take care of this leg, and that's what we have to do. So it's up to all of us just to imagine, that this green ray is coming through us. And then imagine that you can send that to others too, that you can transmit healing to others. And the key is just to operate from a space of grace. Don't try to control or manipulate or do any of that. Just send that healing ray, out there. So it was very, very beautiful, and it was really powerful. And then when we got, back into civilization of our whole, 200 people in town, then it was then I could tell like a lot of people they were very tired. They felt like they were trying to slog through molasses. And that's what happens when there's a lot of energy that's coming through our bodies. It really feels like fatigue, and that sort of thing. So when that's happening, to you personally, just go take a nap, and
yeah,
it's okay. And don't and we don't have to suffer. And so that's critical. So that means it's working. So we're in a field of great energy. It will feel like we're really tired and we're really fatigued, and then that means that you're getting an upgrade at that point. So it's really powerful and beautiful. So
yeah, the 8, because I do, spiritual mathematics or psychosomatic numerology, which 8 is solar plex and base, so power and abundance times 2. I mean, times 3, 888. This is a special,
yeah,
very special
yeah,
one, which is
hmm
24, and 2 and 4 is 6. And 6 is the heart chakra, which is the gold ray of love wisdom.
right.
And
I call six
that's,
love.
yeah,
Yeah, six is love for me.
love wisdom.
Yeah, yeah.
And
The
that's the
eight,
gold ray of
yeah,
Christ
the eight.
consciousness.
Yeah, the eight's a little tricky. I say it's like Saturn energy. If you're trying to push through, it's like dominance and control, and it doesn't quite work. But if you surrender, it kind of goes into infinite possibility. It's almost like you're pushing against a big giant, and then you got to take a few steps back and get a running start and slide underneath in between his legs, to get to the
Yeah.
other side. It's like you have to play it differently. You kind of got to be smart about it. You got to kind of go backwards to go forwards, or let go to receive, things like that. So it's beautiful. So I love that you're into numerology. So am I do it in a different way, but I think that's really super cool, and I really love that about you, Carol. So that's
Mm.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, my
So
teacher worked with Dan Millman on bringing the chakra system. It's in our destiny numbers, right? In the life we
yeah,
were
yeah,
to live.
right,
So
yeah,
yeah, he put the rays and the synthesized rays in there,
right.
purple and
Well, I've always done my life path number, and I've always been a one, and it's like, okay, I'm the creative
Mm.
person, I do new stuff, and I take care of all that stuff. And then
So you're a 1-0 or like a 10? What's your
no, no, I'll tell you. So then then there was a meme that was coming around the number 28. And the 28 is like the money number, which I never knew this,
Mhm.
So it's like 28, all the Rolex watches have the number 28 on the dial, and 28 is like a big, big number. It's all about wealth. And so I went back and I revisited my life path number, and sure enough, I'm a 28. And as
Yeah.
soon as I got that, then I realized that how I had been blocking abundance in my life. I didn't realize what I was doing, but then it was like owning it. It's like, I'm a 28,
Yeah.
baby. And
Well,
then when that
20
happened, yeah, it was cool. And it's a
what
10, it's a one.
yeah, but
So
28, the way we do it, we do count the 0. But 28 too is cooperation and balance in the heart chakra.
hmm
And 8 is power and abundance, solar plex and base. So power and abundance, yes, it's all about money and stability and using it for good. And then 10, you're life path number itself is the 1-0, which is a 10. And 1 is crown chakra, creativity and confidence. And 0 is inner gifts of sensitivity in the brow chakra. So it's about
So
going inward. The 0 is brow chakra.
So 0 is the brow chakra. Okay.
Yeah, inner gifts
I
of
always,
sensitivity. And
yeah.
that's why they say it has no value, because they don't want us to go inward. And 10s, 2-8-10s definitely question authority. And
Yeah,
so
I'm good at that. I'm good at that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
funny.
so a very powerful number because you've got crown and brow. And
Right,
so it's
right.
also oh, forget what I was going to say. It was, I guess, not bad. I'll
It
think of
was
it.
crown.
But
It was
it's
crown. It was crown and brow together.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's very, very important number, and they are. That's why you question authority. It's like being the prime minister. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to be the prime minister. I'm
no,
more
no,
like
I
the
meant,
rebel.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But still, it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
questioning what's going on in the world.
Of
So
course. Yeah. I'm a highly curious person. I'm ridiculously curious. So anyway, so you want to get moving on the storyline? We have a lot to
yeah,
cover. Is that okay? All right.
Anunnaki,
So
Anunnaki. But
an
first of all, let's
Anunnaki.
talk about one more thing. You say there's something going on in Crestone right now,
Oh yes,
and
there is a summit called Earthstock Summit. And what it is, it's a gathering of indigenous elders. We got elders from, we've got Lakota, Shoshone, Pueblo, South American elders. Somebody flew in from Greenland. I mean, it's really incredible. And so it's about a lot of it's around prophecy, around their prophecies, and what are the signs of the times. A lot of them around this amazing wisdom that these beautiful people have held, for eons, and they're still doing it, even though Western man tortured them and perpetrated genocide. They're still willing to stand up and embrace them and actually teach Western man, about what's actually happening. So it's called Earthstock Summit. So if you go to earthstocksummit.com, you'll have all the information, and then there'll be lectures and symposiums that you can connect to online. And this is going through Sunday. So the show is going to air on Friday. So you'll have some good content, and all the good stuff will be happening there. I'm taking people up on the mountain. I'm dancing them at the stupa and dancing them at the ziggurat and doing all those things. So um, I'm not I'm not so good about getting that on film, but we'll see what we can do. So
yeah,
it's
we'll
fun.
put the link down below in the description of the summit that's going on. Is that what
That's
they called
wonderful.
it? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Earthstock
gathering.
Summit. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good that way. Okay. So last time we talked about, how creation occurs in the universe. We talked about how stars are created and then
Mhm.
they die, and how the planets, that are around those stars with all of the life, that life can get transferred to other planets and other star systems. We talked about Grandmother Spider Woman, who maintains the communication system through all the star grids. We talked about the dragons that know how to fold space
Mhm.
so that beings can travel through folded space. And then we talked about this planet Tiamat, um, that used to be in between Mars and Jupiter, and that was the holding place for the laggard souls. And the laggard souls are just souls that are addicted to destruction. So if the galaxy was like a human body, the laggard soul would be cancer within it, and then the body takes all of those souls and puts it into one place. They masticize it. So those souls were masticized into our solar system, and then they were hanging out in Tiamat. And another word for that is Maldek. You can use the word Maldek or Tiamat. And then they got off the planet and they started messing with Mars and they want to destroy everything. So we're gonna talk about how the Anunnaki intervened and saved us, actually. So hold on, everybody, because there's so many times that you'll hear, oh, those evil shape-shifting reptilians. I'm going like, wait a minute. First, are they really evil? Number two, they're not the shapeshifters. The laggard souls are the shapeshifters. And number three, yes, they are reptilian. And they're a very fascinating species. So we talked about traveling through folded space. So the Anunnaki do it in a different way. They travel through space itself in a hollowed out planetoid or moon. So what they'll do is they'll hollow out um a rock thing, and they'll all get inside of it, and then they'll sling this planetoid around a particular sun or planet, just like how we do with the scientists when they're getting satellites to go out into the solar system. They'll use the other planets in their gravitational field to sling the satellite out. So they do the same thing with their planet.
Like
So the most
slingshotting.
you're slingshotting, yeah, exactly. So that's what happened. Their last location was in the Syrian star system. But they're from all over. They're not just from the Syrian star system, but that's where they came from most recently. So they got all in their planet and they slinged it around, and then they hurled themselves out towards our solar system. So you got to remember that a reptilian, if it gets cold, like in the wintertime, they go into a hibernation. They go into a hibernation stage, and they can stay in there forever. They're really amazing creatures. So so
Is it because
so
they're
here's
cold-blooded? Cold-blooded,
yes,
right?
because they're cold-blooded. Yeah, and so they go into a stasis like that, and then they arrive at the other solar system on the other end, and then the sun starts to warm them up, and then they can move around and wake up, and then they get out and they start exploring. So one of the things that they found, they were exploring all the planets in our solar system, and one of the things that they found on Earth was gold. Now, gold's really important to a reptilian. Why? Is because, like, remember, if you're up hiking and it gets really cold and you have an emergency space blanket, those metallic blankets,
Uh-huh.
and then what happens is you put that around you and it reflects the heat back into you. So that's what they were doing with the gold. They were lining the inside of the planet, with gold. And then the other thing that they were doing is they were atomizing the gold itself and then ingesting it, and that's called ormus.
Yeah.
Ormus. And so that gold then would help them so that they could stay awake longer and they wouldn't go to sleep. So when they got, to Earth and they were doing stuff, there were other groups that were already here on Earth. So a lot of humans like to go to who was the first man, who was the first, what was the beginning, that sort of thing. And it's important to know that there were many groups that were already here, and that this is just the story of the Anunnaki. Other groups have their stories, like the Atlanteans will tell you, their stories, and that's kind of what the Bible was, describing in the book of Genesis. So, are you still with me? Did I lose you? Hold on. She's coming back. She's down here.
Sorry, I had to grab something.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so we're all back together. So a lot of the stories, that I'm translating now, this comes from the Sumerian tablets. It's all written. I'm not making any of this stuff up. I'm just accumulating all the research I've done for many, many years, and then adding, like when we access our past lives, like, you might have been in Samaria, or somebody might have been in Atlantis or Lemuria, and then those memories come forward, and it's like a little piece to the puzzle. And if we work with enough people, we can assemble the greater story, and that's what we have here, and that's what I'm delivering. So the Anunnaki would go to the surface and they would gather up gold, and it was really great. And they established their planet on a 3,600-year orbit, around the sun. And they do that because they don't want to get caught in the gravity well of the sun, so they can't travel anymore. Like if they got really close, like Earth or Mars close, they couldn't leave, and they wanted to have the option of being able to travel. So they have to establish a bigger orbit, and so that's why they do it. But the challenge was, they were trying to get the gold off the planet, but it was difficult because they ran out of time. So they'd be down there, gather gold, gather gold. Oh, this is great. It's lovely. Oh, look out. Planet's going. Let's get back on our planet, and we got to head out. And then it gets cold, and then we all got to fall asleep. And then we come back, and then we wake up, and then we do it all over again. So they were really frustrated in their inability to gather the gold and to explore and be here. So Inky is the name of the reptilian that orchestrated all this. He was in charge. So Inky had an idea, and he goes, what if we take our DNA and combine it with Homo erectus? So Homo erectus was a primate that was living on the planet at the time. So it had evolved like a little bit, like out of, like a silverback gorilla, for example, is a magnificent beast, but it can't exist outside the jungle. It has to exist in that jungle. So, and then Homo erectus then could then be more humanoid and could walk and travel across deserts, and and travel outside the jungle. So Homo erectus was present. So the Anunnaki combined their DNA with Homo erectus DNA, and they created the black race, essentially. And so the black race is a hybrid Homo erectus and Anunnaki group. And so and there was diversity within the Anunnaki. It just wasn't one single thing. They had different types and styles and that sort of thing. Just like us humans, we have different aspects, or look at all the different kinds of dogs that are out there. There's really
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful different kinds of dogs. So they taught them to gather the gold, and then they got on the planet, took off for 3,600 years, come back, and then to the and then to the humans, then they were saying, hey, thank you very much, really appreciate you, and they were like their grandchildren, they were like their children. And so they said, okay, now we're going to teach you how to build homes, out in the flatlands, so you don't have to live in caves. We're going to teach you how to cook your food. We're going to teach you more about transportation and farming. Great. And then they would disappear for 3,600 years, and then they would come back, and they said, okay, that's great. Now we're going to teach you about irrigation and metallurgy and maybe some astrology. And so it was they would just give them more and more information in cycles. And then the humans, learn to prepare for the coming, of the return of the Anunnaki every 3,600 years. It's a great cycle, and it's difficult. You can't write that stuff down on paper. The paper won't last long enough. I don't even know if they had paper. So they use clay tablets. So it'd be like a soft tablet, and they'd have a stick that they would be able to poke into it to make words, and then they would cook that, and then those tablets would be stored, and they could um give them instruction and things like that. So
So what
that's what was happening.
what does that got to do with the 25,960 year cycle, like when the harmonic
Well,
conversion and that whole theory,
yeah, well the thing about it is,
or the divine feminine,
yeah,
divine masculine, when the
yeah,
serpent eats itself?
it's all within that. So that's just the so what we're doing is just establishing the presence of the Anunnaki, and simultaneously, we had a lot of the planet was Lemurian. The center of the Lemurian civilization was in the Pacific Ocean. Now the Lemurians, they would work with something called a Meru pillar. And a Meru pillar is this ginormous crystalline shaft that comes up out of the earth. And then if you can work with it and get your body up next to it, or maybe tone with it, yeah, your body would turn to light. And so remember that crystals are starlight physicalized. So starlight shines into every crack and crevice of our planet, and if there's water present, then it will grow a crystal. And then those crystals are like living beings and they continue to grow. But that's it's starlight essentially is what it is. And so then if our bodies are close to those and they're huge, then our bodies will maintain that starlight quality and that starlight aspect of it. So it's all pretty
So
cool.
it's like the star seed, like the crystal on Kauai. I was there at the Buddhist temple, and they have a
Yeah.
600-pound or not rose, clear crystal.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Boy, I'd like to sit with that thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Must
I
be.
did many years ago, but I was there in May of this year or last year,
Uh-huh.
sorry.
Yeah.
Last year. I
Yeah.
don't know when I was there. Anyways, I was there.
Yeah.
And it was closed. They were doing renovations on the temple, so we
Right.
couldn't see the
Okay.
crystal, and that's why I went
Yeah.
there, is to sit with the
Yeah.
600-pound crystal. So,
Yeah. I've
and
been
there's
looking for
quite a few of them on the planet, I think, like
Yeah,
12
they're
or
huge.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're huge. So you got to remember our planet is arranged in a dodecahedron, which means it's a bunch of pentagrams all put together. And on each one of those nodes is a power point. And then there's a ley line between each one of those power points. And usually on that node, there's crystals that are growing. But in the real, powerful spots, it'll be a ginormous crystal. So that's how Lemuria was working. The Pleiadians were working with the Mayan people. The Syrians were working with Mani people. They were primarily working on the west coast of Europe. The Norse people, Druids, the Dogon people in Mali.
Hmm.
And so like the Dogon people says, yeah, there's a Sirius A and a Sirius B, and the scientists are going like, what are you talking about? We only know about Sirius A. And then they discovered Sirius B later, and they're like, wait a minute, Dogon people, how did you get this information? And it's like, well, the Syrians told us. How do you expect we got it? And then in Hopi history, they talk
Prophecy.
about the Tiffany brothers and Blue Star Kachina and all of that. So that's all very it's all very Syrian based, which is really, really beautiful. The Lyrans were working with before Egypt was conquered, it was called the land of Kem, Khem. So they were in the land of Kem, and then they were also over in Death Valley, California. And then who else do we have? And the Orions were in the Caucasus Mountains, and the Orions are the Aryans.
Mm.
So, and then we also had great beings that were like that had emerged up out of the earth itself. So there were also the Agarthans that were living down inside the earth. I don't subscribe to that the whole earth is hollow, but I do know that there are cavernous places in the earth, and that's probably where these groups are coming from. So all of this is happening, and it's pretty amazing. And then there was actually red men on Mars. So if you read the Edgar Rice Burroughs work, they talk about John Carter from Mars, and there's a bunch of works that there. He was really tapping into some amazing stuff. There's a Disney movie called John Carter from Mars, and it shows how the laggard souls got off their planet Tiamat and they started messing around with Mars. And so when they do that, they're not trying to be helpful. They're trying to destroy Mars, and then, when John Carter asked the shapeshifter on Mars, it's like, what are you trying to create? And he goes, we're not. We're managing the destruction of this planet. And that's what they do. It's pretty telling. It's pretty amazing. So I mean, that's essentially what happened. So when the laggard souls got off of Tiamat, and started messing with Mars, then there had to be an intervention. There was a big intervention. And that's when the grandmother of the galaxy, the consciousness of the galaxy, reduced herself to the size of an atom, a planet. And she came to Tiamat, and she took her, I call it the seed of love. It's like the most powerful cell in our bodies, which is in our heart, our essence of love. And what her plan was to explode, sacrifice herself and explode that planet out, and then reemerge and essentially phoenix herself and reemerge, and then birth this new quality of love, for the galaxy. And she knew what she was doing, and that was her plan, except she didn't tell us. So she goes cruising down to, it'd be like Marilyn Monroe going to the San Quentin prison with the Hope Diamond. And so they're heading all down there, and I was like, and we're just like, what is she doing? And she knew that we wouldn't put up with her sacrificing self, so she did it, without our knowledge. And so we jumped in. So we jumped into the explosion. It was ugly, it was horrible, and we all were blown up and got hurt and wounded and mangled. And then as a big blob, we traveled to Earth, and then we crash landed here on Earth about 230,000 years ago. So then the laggard souls, vicious little guys, they were just going like, aha, now we have this great grandmother consciousness of the galaxy that's trapped on Earth. So we're gonna destroy Earth now. And that's when the Anunnaki said, oh no, you're not. And so there was a conflict. So the Anunnaki brought with them, have you ever seen the snake eating its
Yeah,
tail?
yeah,
The Ouroboros.
yeah.
And you can consider that to be karma. That which you seek to perpetrate upon someone else will return to you 1,000-fold. And this is what the Anunnaki brought with them to correct the situation. And they said, since you're trying to destroy Mars, your planet's going to get destroyed. So they came very close to Saturn to make moons. So if one planet can get really close to another planet, it can literally suck some of the matter off of that planet. And that's what they did with Saturn. And they created, I believe it was 7 moons around their planet. And then they hurled themselves.
Oh, you muted.
Nibiru. Oh, look out. What am I doing? Give me 1 second. Where am I? Am I
There you are.
back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, sorry about that. So they hurled themselves towards Tiamat, and these moons just went bam, 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 big explosion. And that explosion destroyed Tiamat, but it also swept the atmosphere off of Mars. And like one side of Mars is very pockmarked and the other side is very smooth. And so that's when Mars lost its atmosphere. And then the brewer went spiraling out somewhere beyond the solar system, and we're not aware of it. Or maybe somebody is aware of it, I'm not
Are they
sure.
not coming in? Isn't it coming in now? Like according to the Zetas.
Everybody talks about it, but I'm just not sure. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I've heard all kinds of information, but I haven't I don't I don't deliver things unless I can verify it. And
Yeah.
there's all kinds of rumor about all kinds of stuff, and we can talk about that stuff forever. But I'd like to research and make sure that there's a foundation of support of that actually happening, and there just isn't enough of one. But people imagine, when is Nibiru going to come back, or is it going to come back?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that a chunk of this explosion came and hit our planet. And when it hit our planet, it crashed right into Lemuria. And Lemuria had a Meru pillar, and it was this beautiful big crystalline shaft, and it broke it off. And then the planet, in that part of the planet, it went and curved in on itself. It collapsed. And then on the other side of the planet, it opened up. And that's why, let me do it like this, and that's, it opened up. So this is South America and this is Africa. They fit together. So then when
Oh,
the one side of the planet collapsed and then the other side of the planet bulged out, and when it bulged out, it created Atlantis at that time. So it was a big mess. It was a disaster. And people were trying to just like survive any way they could. They're trying to get off the planet, get into the oceans, get on a moon, just do whatever they could, to survive. It was really, really horrible. And the Lemurians, these beautiful, illuminated people, we were physical, but not as physical. It'd be like, imagine a glowworm or a
yeah,
firefly
yeah.
or a bioluminescent, little plankton. That was the nature of our biology. We're literally glowing beings, and I call that homo luminous. We were homo luminous. That's what a Lemurian is. And in order to maintain that, we had 13 strands of DNA, and 13 is an important number. And so we were, it was amazing, and all of a sudden we get hit by this asteroid, and it turns the Earth in on itself. And it was really horrible. And not only that, you had, the red men on Mars, they couldn't be on their planet anymore, so they had to come to Earth. And whoever was left of the laggard souls, they had destroyed their planet, so they had to come to Earth. They went to Atlantis. They went to the new area. And then there was intervention. Before, it was kind of more like a playpen, and then when Atlantis was formed, it's like, okay, this is going to be more like a prison. So that's when they have the concentric rings. The real dangerous ones are in the middle, and then the concentric rings would go outward.
Ripple.
And then there was also a smaller Meru pillar that was there. It wasn't in the center of Atlantis. It was up on a hill on the side, and that allowed this light and this energy to flood into these laggard souls. So remember, a laggard soul is just a soul that's addicted to destruction, like a young boy that starts throwing dirt clods and smashing mud puddles and killing bugs. It's fun. It really is fun, but they just got addicted to it, and they just couldn't do anything else, did it all the time. So we had to put them somewhere so they wouldn't harm themselves or others. And so that's what Tiamat was. But now Earth received that, and it was pretty tough. And then the Anunnaki had their civilization in Samaria, in where Iraq is today.
Mhm.
And so they went there. So it was really tough, and it was really hard. Now, there was one galactic group that felt compassion for the Lemurian people because, they didn't deserve to be destroyed. So they crashed their ship into what's now Northern California and created Mount Shasta, and then invited the Lemurians to come inside the ship. It's a huge ship, like a city, and that's the Telos civilization. So the Telos civilization is a hybrid galactic Lemurian civilization underneath Mount Shasta. And different people have talked about going there and
Is that
and
why it's
having
such a spiritual place, like Mount Shasta?
yes.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah,
been there.
yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. So then the Hopi talk about the four worlds. So the first world was the world of the great shaking. So we got hit by this asteroid, and of course there's earthquakes and volcanoes, and it was just really, really rough and difficult to be here. And then the second world was the world of the great freezing. So those particulates go up into the atmosphere, kind of block out the sun, and then Earth gets really cold, and then the polar caps, they freeze. The ocean levels go down in elevation quite a bit. Was it 200 feet lower? Was it more? Hard to say, but it was significantly lower. Now, at that time, there's something in the atmosphere called a firmament. So a firmament is like the energetic grid system of the dodecahedron system that supports a layer of moisture, two layers of moisture actually, out into the atmosphere. And that shields us from solar and photonic radiation. So that's why humans would live longer, because we weren't subjected to all the radiation. And so like Methuselah lived to be 969 years, for example. That's why, because the firmament was in place. So
Is that what they call blue ice? The blue ice wall
that's a flat earth theory.
theory? Okay.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to a flat earth theory. I mean, I've been in a plane, I've circumnavigated, I've flown around the whole planet, and it's like, that's cute, you guys, but let's not get into that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if you believe that, good for
No,
you, you know, but
I think we're more of a toroidal system. I mean, it's an
yeah,
energetic thing. Yeah.
yeah, we're a sphere with a toroidal field. We're a dodecahedron, which is spherical with a toroidal field around us, of course. So anyway, so we're not talking about flat Earth
No,
stuff.
no, no, no. We have no
Yeah.
idea. I have no
Okay.
idea what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. It's yeah.
We play with it all.
I'm just not going to say anything more about it. Okay. So then you know, the second world was the great freezing, according to the Hopi, and then the third world was the great flooding, which I want to get us all to. And then you know, and then they talked about the fourth world and going into the fifth world. So the Lemurians then at that point were just refugees, and they needed their Meru pillar, they needed their crystal pillar. So they found a minor Meru pillar in the Himalayas, but it was very cold and harsh to be there. So they set up their civilization in Western China in the Taklamakan Desert. And so they were actually had a plan then to sort of explode light back up into to hit the firmament and allow that to go around the entire planet. But the problem was is that the firmament had been compromised. So the energetic system that was holding up all of that moisture, part of it failed. It was compromised. It didn't fail, but it was compromised. It was like cracked open. So some of the water came down, and it was really rough. Now, this energetic grid that's around the planet, you know, like you say, the toroidal field, that shields us not just from solar and photonic radiation, but it also shields us from multidimensional and timeline incursions. Multidimensional and timeline incursions. So it protects us from people from the future and the past coming onto our planet, creating havoc, or people from different dimensions coming into our planet and creating havoc. So this was compromised. So there was a future version of us, humans, that had genetically modified themselves and cloned themselves so much that they couldn't reproduce anymore. So they go back in time to try to get the light codes from the Lemurians, and then take those into the future and infuse them into their cloning system so they can extend their civilization. Because otherwise they're at the end of the road. They've cloned all they can clone, and they can't produce anymore. So this group came back in time, and they were able to access the Lemurian light codes from the Lemurians, who had set up New Lemuria in Western China, and they overlaid their civilization on top of that Lemurian civilization, and they became a Lemurian. In this future group, they're the Greys. They're the Greys. So the Greys are actually a future version of us. So the Greys overlaid their civilization on top of Lemurians, and this civilization is half Grey, half Lemurian or Polynesian. You want to guess what that one is in Western China? Who lives there? They
Western
have
China.
interesting interesting eyes. They look different than like most humans. So these are the Asian people.
Asian, yeah.
So the Asian, yeah, so the Asian people are a Lemurian gray hybrid, and they're really wonderful people. I mean, they have, you know, such you know, beauty and art and creativity, and at the same time, they're kind of like locusts. They have no environmental awareness. They'll cut down the last tree, they'll pollute the last river, and so we have to really be careful to make sure that we teach them not to consume the entire planet, because they will. And that's what grays do, you know. So that's the Asian race. That's how the Asian race got here. So that's pretty cool. So things are not looking all that great, you know. It's really rough and difficult. And so the laggard souls on Atlantis, I mean, this we're talking, you know, over, you know, tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
They start to organize themselves, and they have technology, and they start to create a civilization that seems like it's pretty good, you know. And they convince everybody else on Earth, it's like, yeah, we decided to rehabilitate ourselves, and we're not those, you know, destructing types anymore. And we know that you're suffering. So why don't you guys come here in our civilization, and you can live with us here in Atlantis, you know, which we've rebuilt. And so they invited the Lemurians and the Sumerians to come to Atlantis. And except that their idea of civilization was to enslave everybody, and it was really awful. So they took those Lemurian codes and stripped them down from 13 strands down to 2 strands, and then they refracted the Lemurian light codes from 7 rays, you know, down to single rays, and then they did all that genetic experimentation. And so that's the ancient memories that we have, like a fish man, a horse and man, bird and man, you know, those hybrid races. And that was coming from that experimentation. So you know, the Lyrans were still in Egypt, but when the comet hit, the civilization that was over in Death Valley, over in California, that got folded into the earth. And so then those people, then they came out and onto the Colorado Plateau. So if you go to Las Vegas, remember Vega is the major star in the Lyran civilization. And if you go to Las Vegas, it's all cat people. So
What do you mean, cat
there's
people?
cat people, that those are Lyrans, lion people, you
Oh,
know?
okay.
Yeah, that's where the word lion comes from. They're actually Lyrans. It's ancient, and that's the ancient Egyptians were Lyrans. And so, but you can see, like, you have like the MGM Grand, the Luxor Hotel with the Sphinx. You have a really beautiful Sekhmet temple, which is the lion goddess from Egypt, on the north end of Vegas. And you know, like Cats, the musical played there longer, you know, than anywhere else. I mean, so it's definitely the civilization of cat people. Now, the laggard souls that were in Atlantis, you know, they had a propensity to destroy themselves. So they created an enemy, destroy that enemy, and then when they didn't have any more enemies, they'd self-destruct. And so there was one group that was continuing to do the destruction. There was another group that said, "Hey, we want to be fierce and control things, but we don't want to self-destruct, but we're going to conquer." And so they went out and they conquered the Lyran civilization. So when the Atlanteans conquered the Lyran civilization, it became Egypt at that time. So if you use the word Egypt, that's the Lyran civilization that's been conquered by the Atlanteans. And if you use the word Kem, that's the older Lyran civilization that was not conquered.
What's
And
Kim?
so Kem
Oh,
is pre-Egypt, before Egypt.
like KEHM. Is that the one you talked
K
about?
K Khem.
Okay.
Khem is how you spell it.
Yeah. I had,
Yeah,
you talked about that earlier, so I'd written it down.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so and then there was another group that says we don't want to destroy it all. You know, we came here to rehabilitate ourselves, and we're going to do that. So we're going to go work with the Druid people, you know, in England, and some of the beings in France, and also the Minoans in Crete. And so they helped them, you know, build their civilization. So here comes the laggard souls, and they want to destroy everything. And so they got all of their equipment and their weapons, and they go out, and they said, "Who's the closest person?" And that was the Mayan people on the Yucatan Peninsula, and those are the Pleiadians, you know, and they're brown skinned people.
Yeah.
And so they went out to attack them, and they'd get over there and do the best they can, and they would just get their butts kicked every single time. The Mayans were pretty fierce warriors. And so they were really frustrated, and they said, well, how can we really conquer this group of people? And they said, okay, we need to connect into what's left of that grid system, that's above the planet, and that grid system is supported by pyramids across the entire planet. So remember, the Earth is a dodecahedron. On each one of those nodes, on each pentagram, is a pyramid, an ancient pyramid. It's a power point, and then all of that power together then would maintain the firmament, the energetic field up in the atmosphere that had all the water in it that would allow us to be protected. And it also did other things. It was really cool. I mean, it would regulate weather across the entire planet, temperature, so that you could grow food wherever you wanted to, and it would also produce free energy. So if you were in the vicinity of one of these pyramids, it was like testing the technology. So there was a magnetic field, a Merkaba field, and then you had your little Merkaba in your house, then you could generate light or use it, for work. Like we use electricity for appliances to do work, but it would be like that. So the
Here's, I'm just
Atlantean,
gonna show you something quickly.
yeah, I saw you mentally going through your library. I know you were
Uh,
accessing something. Yeah.
I built this here in Costa Rica. It's,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah,
That's
it's
good stuff.
huge. It's
Yeah.
the pyramid
And
and
and y- and use copper.
copper, yeah. And the corners, like
That's-
they're all the same as the
Yeah.
Giza pyramid.
Yeah,
And
the
yeah,
Giza proportions. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
there's all full of cathedral crystals. Like I have huge cathedrals, amethyst,
Oh,
that are in
beautiful.
here. They're not in here right now. So, anyways, I
Yeah.
thought I'd quickly share that because I did build
Thank you.
Merkaba
Yeah.
too, but it's in Canada. I couldn't bring it down with me.
Right.
It was like life size that you do the breath work, the 16
Right.
Merkaba breath.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's the thing. So, let me get my place back here. Where was I? Okay,
pyramids.
so yeah, so the pyramids, and some of them were even crystal pyramids, and they talked about that. So what the Atlanteans did was they convinced the Rochelle priests. The Rochelle priests were the ones that maintained the pyramids to weaponize the pyramids. And so what they did was they pulled the energy from all of the pyramids across the planet into the one single Meru pillar, that they had, on in Atlantis. It wasn't a big one, but they pulled, all of these things. I got all kinds of cool stuff in my uh in my
Oh yeah.
in my office. So what the heck? Let's use one, right? So what they did was they pulled all of that energy down into this one single crystal Meru pillar. But the thing about it, it was too much. And all of this energy came down into the pyramid, and it didn't blow it up, it collapsed it. So it wasn't an explosion, it was an implosion. And it was like, you got to remember this, because it was like a nuclear implosion, not an explosion. And what that did then, we'll play around here. Um, what that did then is it created a gravity well, and then everything started collapsing into that gravity well. And that's when Atlantis started submerging. And it submerged to a point so much that, Atlantis had hills and mountains and things like that. It just sucked it all down. And then what happened was the firmament then collapsed, and all of that water that was up in the firmament, then that came down, and then ocean levels rose at that time. So, so imagine hundreds of feet of water then came down and made the oceans deeper, while at the same time the Atlantis itself was collapsing. That gravity well is what we know as the Bermuda Triangle. So it's still a gravity well. So if a ship or a plane flies over it, everything's out of whack, and then it gets sucked down into that gravity well.
There's a
And so that
pyramid there too, isn't there? In the
there's a
Bermuda
cri- y-
Triangle.
Yeah,
pyramid.
there's a crystal pyramid. When I looked at it, and I envisioned it, this is something that hasn't been verified. This is a vision that I had, and when I saw it, it was on its side. It wasn't flat. It was laying on its side. And the point of it was actually pointing up to Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Mm.
And so it was from the Bermuda pointing up that way. So yes, but it was a mess. It was a big, horrible mess. And then everybody's like, "Oh, you guys, what did you do?" So that's the Hopi world of the Great Flooding, and it was a global event that happened. So then we receive all this water, and then you get into the book of Ramtha. Now the book of Ramtha, I love this book, and you can't see, it's just a book.
Mm.
It says Ramtha across there. It's a white book like that. There's there's no text on it at all. You have to take my word for it. Um, it was it was oh darn, who's the lady that
Oh,
channels Ramtha?
yeah, yeah,
JD
yeah,
Knight.
yeah.
JD Knight.
She was in
Yeah.
What the Bleep or What the Bleep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So here,
she's
maybe
funny.
I'll just show you a picture of the first page, maybe because there's no, so that's the
Oh
book of
yeah.
Ramtha. And it tells the whole story of this little Lemurian boy on the streets of Atlantis. And here on the cover it says, "I am a sovereign entity who lived a long time ago upon earth, and in that life I did not die, I ascended. For I learned to harness the power of my mind and take my body with me into an unseen dimension of life. In doing so, I realized an existence of unlimited freedom, unlimited joy, and unlimited life." So this is a good book to read, and it creates a bridge, a beautiful bridge, in the history, between ancient Atlantean civilization and Hindu civilization. Now the Zechariah Sitchin stuff. Let me see. How do I do this? The Zechariah Sitchin stuff is the other set of books, that are really, really pretty good. Now Zechariah Sitchin says that, he believes that that Tiamat was partially destroyed, and then it came crashing, into our orbit, and so he calls that Earth is actually Tiamat. Now, I was here before Tiamat was destroyed. I was on Earth before Tiamat was destroyed, and I remember being here. So I don't think that's the case, but Tiamat was definitely destroyed, but Earth was here at the same time. So I think he might be a little incorrect on that, or there might be some more information to be revealed.
Yeah. What's
So
Gaia
Earth
then?
was here.
Gaia,
Gaia's
Tiamat.
Earth.
Yeah. Okay.
Gaia is Earth. Yeah, that's our Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Unchimama, Pachamama, the Mother Gaia. So Ramtha saw his mother and his sister die on the streets of Atlantis. He was very angry, very upset. And so he hiked and climbed all the way up to the hill where the Meru pillar used to be on the hill. And he climbed all the way up there where it had been imploded. And then he screamed out at the universe. And a feminine being came down and gave Ramtha a sword and said, "Okay, Ramtha, take this sword and go do something about it." And so then Ramtha took the sword. Now they were all slaves. They didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And he took the sword down, and he liberated the slaves. It was like a Spartacus. And they rose up against the Atlanteans and they defeated them. Now the Atlanteans, the laggard souls, were going like, "Oh my God, we didn't realize that these slaves could do this." And there's a lot more of them than us. So from this point forward, we have to be hidden. We can't operate in the open. We're going to take on the icon of the owl, working in the darkness, and that's what we're going to do. And then Ramtha continued with his people to conquer the entire world. It was pretty much a Mediterranean area. And then he was going like, I don't want anything to do with you guys. We're going to go down into the Indus Valley in between Pakistan and India and create civilization there. So just remember that during that time, remember everything was really frozen, and then things started to thaw, you know. So there were lands that were coming, you know, becoming available from the receding ice sheets, and so that they were becoming available. Like for example, Europe, you know, you weren't able to live in Europe, and then the ice was receding, and then people started to live in Europe and settle in different parts. So Ramtha took his entire civilization and went down into the Indus Valley. And then, according to the Book of Ramtha, then he says, you know, I can conquer the entire world, but do I really have mastery over earth or air, water or fire? He worked on himself, and he became the first ascended master since the fall, and that's who Ram is. And his wife was Sita. And so then he ascended, you know, and then civilization continued. And then there was a massive amounts of the Indus River changed course at that time. And you can study this in the geologic record.
Where's the Indus
And
River? Just
it's
for
it's in India.
India.
Yeah, it's in between Pakistan and India. And the Indus River changed course drastically. And then there was crop failure and flooding, and the people says we got to leave, we got to get out of here. So they had memory of Samaria and in Egypt, so they went north. They tried Samaria, they didn't like it, and then they came over onto the Sinai Peninsula. So the Melchizedek priests that were in Egypt, they came out to meet this holy man with this multitude of people. I think it was something like hundreds of thousands of people. There was a lot. And so the Melchizedek order said to the holy man, "Hey, would you like to be ordained into our order, and then your knowledge base could be folded into our knowledge base, and then we could work together?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." So, do you remember the Hindu word for holy man? Do you know this word?
No,
The caste system? It's called the Brahmin.
the
So
Brahmin. Okay.
this man was a Brahmin, Abraham.
Ah,
So Abraham came up out of the Indus, and then that's how the Israeli culture then or the Hebrew culture got folded into Egyptian culture, and that's how that happened. I mean, they did it willingly. You know, they were saying, yes, let's do civilization together. So then you know how civilization then moved from Egypt to Palestine to Greece to Rome to Europe to England, and then to the east coast of the United States. So most of the people on the east coast, they're more Atlantean. The Europeans and East Coasters are, you know, it's all about technology and science, leverage, war, that sort of thing. And then on the coast of the United States, we have the Lemurian people, or the ancient Polynesian people, and they're more about allowance and art, creativity, beauty, you know, that sort of thing.
yeah.
And then in the middle, where I guess you live there too, since you're in Costa Rica, is the convergence, you know, of those cultures. And you know, here in Colorado, we have the high magic mountains, and so the magic is being combined with the two different cultures, well, many different cultures, to converge and create a new civilization. So that's what we're doing. We're birthing a new civilization. So it's really fun that way.
Like a new root race, I think they call it, right? New root
Yeah,
race.
well, yeah, I wouldn't say it's new, because remember, we were separated from ourselves,
Mm.
and our DNA was stripped from us, and we were scattered about the planet so that we didn't have access to ourselves. And now we do. So what we're doing is we're assembling, you know, our light codes and assembling our global race. And so I don't think it's new. I think it's we're just gathering all of our bits and reassembling so we can restore ourselves to that ancient Lemurian state of being, Homo luminous. That's what we're up to.
So
So
what
that's really pretty cool.
I was going to ask you, why did you say 13 strands? Most people say 12 strands of DNA. I
Yeah,
say
there's
13, but
yeah,
be
there's 13. Yeah, if I've got a picture of 13-stranded DNA. It's assembled in a laboratory.
Mhm.
I'll give that to you. And so it begins with the seed of life. So the seed of life is a single circle, and then it has 6 more circles around it. That's 7.
Mhm.
And then the next fractal is 6 more points around that. And the 7 and the 6 make 13. So there's 13 strands. There's also 13 celestial bodies that we should be working with. Like, we've been tricked and fooled into thinking that, that we should exclude Tiamat and we should exclude Nibiru. So, and we're going to talk about that in lecture 3.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll talk about that in lecture 3.
Well,
I just want to
13,
get,
I also say is,
yeah,
there's 13 tones, right? And
13 tones, 13 moons, 13
yeah,
rays when you have the double rainbow.
yeah. And
The
also
yeah.
13 joints in the body. Like you got
Oh, cool.
2 ankles, 2 knees, 2 hip joints, 2 shoulder joints, 2 elbows, 2 wrists, and the neck is the 13th. So which
Nice.
connects to the vagus nerve, right? The 13
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Boy, it is so fun, like, hanging out with you, Carole, because you got this great wisdom. It's like I have to educate somebody so much, and it's like, you got it. You go, girl. You got it, man.
Well, we
Sorry,
do, we each have a
yeah,
piece
yeah.
of the puzzle, right? So,
Right, and I really love your body intelligence and how you're applying these concepts to the body. That's wonderful. So thank you for doing that. So, so civilization then, continues, and now you got to remember that the when the Atlanteans were trying to conquer Chem, there were 3 groups. So the ancient Lyran civilization was segregated. I don't want to say segregated, but there were 3 groups. One group was the sisterhood, the priestesses of Isis,
mhm,
and that's mothers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, children, all of that, all of the sisters. Now, it was really important for them they could pull up dark matter out of the earth. So remember, we were talking before, is like 80% of the stuff of the galaxy is dark matter. That's the
mhm,
feminine, and that's the feminine wound. And black is female, white is male. And feminine is the absence of everything, and male is all of the colors of the rainbow as a single point of light, white light. So the sisterhood, the priestess of Isis, they could pull up dark matter out of the earth, and they actually would, and they would pull dark matter up out of the ground and put it in the bottom of the pyramid, and then they combine it with water to make black water, and then they could do all kinds of stuff with it. So just remember that the pyramids had crystalline qualities. They were granite, which it has a lot of crystalline to it, and then the
mhm,
limestone was the outer casing. So when you would pull dark matter up through a crystal, just think about Starship Enterprise, dilithium crystals. You're putting antimatter through those guys, and you get massive amounts of light and energy. So that's how they were producing energy. So you can't do it without the divine feminine, and you can't do it without her knowing how to work with water, the most feminine element, to create this stuff called black water. So if anybody was had disease, or they were hurt or distraught or anything like that, what they would do is they would fill, the king's chamber up with this quality of this black water, and then immerse the body into it, and then the body would be cleansed and purified from all discord and anything that didn't create, beautiful health and vitality.
sounds
And
like
so it was
Shayla's
here.
like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
black
You,
water.
so yeah, so uh Shilajit is a wonderful substance, and I collect it. And the thing about it is, it's not easy to collect because it exists really high up
In the
into the into the mountains, and then you'll get, I mean, when I first saw it, I thought it was bat guano, so I was afraid of it and I didn't touch it. So I have it in these little containers. So we're going sideways on a bunny
I know.
trail. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
So this is from Crestone, Colorado.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, so it kind of smells like, let me see if I can get a picture of it. Kind of smells like tar. And so it comes out, let me see, am I getting it? There we go.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes out like that, you know? And so you take a toothpick like that, and then you just kind of roll it around to get some like that. So then it has a little blob like that. Yeah.
I know it's really
There you go.
bitter. I put it in a capsule with some methylene blue and swallow it.
Okay. But this stuff is highly concentrated. It goes through. We have a process where we put it through a centrifuge, and it's really wonderful things. It's really great. Has a whole bunch of trace minerals. It's good for overall health, men's vitality. You know, so
Mhm.
if you're feeling a little flaccid, if you take the Shilajit, that should help with that. So this little thing that I have here, it's here I'm doing a commercial now.
Yeah.
This is 8 grams, and it lasts you quite a while, and it's $30. So if you want that, you can.
Oh, you sell it?
Yeah, I have. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, your
Hmm.
website will be down below, or your contact
Yeah.
for the
Yeah. Yeah. So if you
Mystic
want
Mountain
Shilajit,
House.
you
Yeah.
can do that. And then I also have I have other medicines. I have amanita mushrooms that I've been working with, and
Oh.
that's really been helpful for the nervous system, and I've been able to heal a lot with them. So anyway, I
I,
digress. Let's continue about this
okay, I
story.
want to add one thing for the nervous system is mango
Mango
leaf
mango
tea.
steam,
No, mango tea. Mango
just
leaf.
straight up mango leaf. Okay.
The leaf of the tree, and it calms the
Uh-huh.
nervous system down. Yeah. I've got
Okay.
mangosteen also, but I use mango leaf tea and
Hmm.
also guanabana, which is soursop leaves for tea, right?
Okay.
Takes you really.
Yeah, sour sop is great.
Yeah, I have 3 trees of soursop. Yeah. Oh, you went mute again. You there? No, you're mute.
Dude.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go. There you go. Now,
Yeah.
oh, now you
All
turned your
right. Here
camera
we.
off.
I know. I'll get it. I'll get it. Thanks for being patient, everybody.
Yeah.
So the second group would be the men that would go out and trade. And so they would go out and they'd find like silks and jewels and carved wood and all kinds of wondrous things. And then they bring those back. And so the key was that they would give those to their wives and their grandmothers and their daughters. And then the women would say, "Oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that." And then the guys would go, "Yes, she likes it." And then they would be motivated to go out and do more. So in this way, the divine feminine motivated the masculine to do all of the things. Like we really don't care about money so much. What we really care about is we just want our partners and sisters and mothers and grandmothers and daughters, we just want them to be happy. That's really
Appreciate.
what it is. Yeah, we just want them to be happy. And when the divine feminine can be in a powerful spot to express that appreciation, then the men become invincible.
Mm.
And so the men of Ra are the ones that go out, so the sun shines and it goes out. And so they would go out and trade. And then the third group that was there are the sons of the mother, the sons of the mother, the sons of Ma. And that is a Ma son, and that's what a mason is. So these are the ancient builders. And so they say, "Hey, Carol, I can build anything. I'm a master builder. What would you like?" And you'd say, "Wonder Bob, could you remodel my bathroom?" And it's like, "Yes." So we go out and we just make this beautiful, beautiful bathroom and just show how wonderful and beautiful it is. And then you come back and like, "Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And then we would build more. What do you want? Do you want a greenhouse? Do you want a place to dance? Do you want a kitchen? Do you want a place to pray? And so we would build and build and build for the love of the mother. And that's why there was so much building that was going on. And that's why we did it. So we had the men of Ra and the sons of Ma and the sisters of Isis. and Isis is double being, be. And so it wasn't about doing, it was about being and expressing that appreciation. And in that way, just imagine, here's this guy, he's going out to trade, and there's 1,000 grandmothers that, that show up and put flowers over his feet so that, he can return safely and be successful. With those kind of prayers behind you, you are invincible. So when the Atlanteans attacked these trader guys, they had to learn how to do war, and they never gave up. They would just go and like, no, I've got all of these women behind me, and I can't let them down. And they would never give up. They'd never surrender. And the Atlanteans were really frustrated because they just couldn't conquer Chem because of the divine feminine. It was intact. And then finally, the Atlanteans figured out how to convince the men of Ra to protect the divine feminine and kind of hold her in a container. And when that happened, it all failed. And that's when the Atlanteans then conquered Chem, and that became Egypt. So that's what happened. Now, the other thing that was happening simultaneously was our galactic family was looking at what was happening, and they weren't happy about it. And so here's, all of these, people that are getting enslaved by these Atlanteans and genetically modified. And they're going like, we can't get them out. We can't take them out of the containment because this containment is important because we got to let these laggard souls work through their karma so that the galaxy can be protected. So we can't take them out, but we can go in. So the galactic family started showing up, and that's a star seed. So it's a soul that's already been illuminated from another star system, and then they come here to volunteer to help raise the consciousness and the vibration. So then it became a population race. It's like, how many star seeds can we get here to shift, the scales of time and create more star seeds than there are laggard souls that have enslaved humans. The way they enslaved them was not good. We would get implanted and manipulated, our memories stripped from us. It was really, really horrible. And they were doing all this stuff. So
Is that the Democrats? No.
yeah, no,
I'm
it's not.
teasing.
It's the ones behind the parties. It would be the deep state or the cabal or the power elite. It's those guys. So anyway, so remember we had dark matter that was coming up out of the earth. Now the deva of dark matter. So this word deva, when you use it, that means the collective consciousness of a thing. So a tree, for example, it's difficult to communicate with the tree, but a tree will deliver a little energetic form that's humanoid, that we can have a conversation with. That's called a tree sprite. So a tree sprite is a little energetic consciousness of the tree, and we can have a conversation with it. Or if there's a grove of trees, you can talk to the deva of the grove of trees. Or if there's a species of a tree, like you can have a conversation with all of the pine trees, or you can have a conversation with all of the trees, or you can have a conversation with all of nature in totality. And that deva is Pan, the nature god. Remember Pan? Yeah. And what do the Christians call him? The devil.
Devil,
Yeah. So let's
the green
vilify
man.
nature. And the green man. So let's vilify nature. That's kind of retarded. So anyway, the deva of dark matter is Adam's first wife, and that's Lilith. So Lilith is the deva of dark matter, and that's who she is. So Lilith can flow dark matter into anything, and if you flow dark matter into anything, it can undo everything. So she would show up and she'd see what the Atlanteans are doing. She goes, this doesn't work for me, and she would just flow dark matter, through everything, and she would undo, what all of these other people had done. And they're like, oh no, we got to do it all again. And then they enslave everybody and do all this stuff. And it's like, oh no, here comes Lilith, and she's going to undo everything. So we're really frustrated. So it wasn't until they stripped Lilith out of our memory and kind of banished her into the earth, that's when these genetic modifications could stick. But at the same time, we still needed a feminine. So Adam needed his second wife. And so we cloned her, or they cloned her. So they took the bone marrow out of Adam. Good place to get that is from a rib. and they took the bone marrow out of Adam, took the genetic material, and created the feminine clone of the masculine, and that's who Eve is. So Adam and Eve are all, it's a masculine quality, and it's a stripped down, genetically modified version of humanity. So if you want to know what is the GMO human is called the Adam. That's Adam. And it was a group. It wasn't just one. It was a group. In our image, we created them. It was a group. So that's what was happening. So Lilith then was vilified. So, oh gosh, dark matter. That's evil. That's horrible. And then the sisterhood, the priestesses of Isis, they could connect to her, and they could connect to dark matter, and they could use it to heal, to create energy, to undo and shift the course of nature and history, that sort of thing. So all of this is happening, and then these galactic souls say, like, we don't like what's going on here, so we're going to come and we're going to help correct the situation. And we know that the biggest thing that we've got to do is up level and restore the DNA of humanity. So there was one group, from the Perseus star system, and they crashed their group into Macedonia, and then they came out and they started working with the people there called the Greeks, and then the Greeks saw them as gods, but they were a galactic group from the Perseus star system. And so the best way to get DNA into humanity is to make babies. So Zeus was a busy guy, and that's what he was doing. So they were trying to insert their DNA into our DNA and then up-level our DNA to create, and they created demigods. And those became the Greek kings. Okay. So remember that then the laggard souls, the Atlanteans, are doing stuff in Egypt. So they said, let's set up shops. We're going to go across the Mediterranean, because remember, the ice has receded, and so let's go there, and we're going to create civilization there, and that's the Ramen become Romans. Romans. The Romans are Romans. And so then civilization, continued there. So then it wasn't just a king. It's like, no, we're going to do an empire. We're going to do this thing called Caesar. So a Caesar has the Perseus star system codes from the Macedonians via Greek demigods. And then it also has, Egyptian civilization, which is Lyrians, which also has the other civilization of the Hebrew people, which have laggard souls, which are Atlanteans, Lemurians, and Sumerians, all rolled into that Egypt area, and then that was up in Rome. So that's what a Caesar is. So kind of bookmark that. It's important to know that all of those light codes are in a Caesar. Okay, so going backward, I skipped over a little bit. Going backward, the Metatron. In the Merkabah field, there's 13 aspects of the Merkabah field. We mostly use 11, and they're angels. So the right side up pyramid in the east is Michael, the west is Ratziel, the north is Zachiel, the south is Raphael, and they work with the Metatron up above, which is Neptune. And then the upside down pyramid, it rotated 45 degrees in the same space, is Gabriel, Zophiel, Camiel, Uriel, working with Metatron's twin brother Sandalphon down in the earth. And in the middle of the whole system is the divine feminine, and that's called the Shekinah. And so, everything would rotate around the divine feminine, because that's how it works, right? The first thing is, the divine feminine has to show up, right? We need a womb. Nothing works without a womb.
Right.
Right. Then number two is then the masculine comes, and they can create a child. So the Trinity isn't even in the Bible. All these people, these Catholics, they tell me about the Trinity. I go, show me in the Bible where it is. And they can't. And it's like, it's not in there. They kind of pulled it out in a really weird way to justify a Roman concept. And so it's and how it should be mother, father, child.
Yeah.
And how they have it is the father and the son. See, they want male on top. If it's father and son, that can't produce anything except pedophilia. And then they couldn't eliminate the Shekinah, so they hid her behind the Holy Spirit. So that's where she is in Christian tradition. But she's everywhere, like Hindu tradition, Mahadurga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Kali, all of those aspects. So she's very, very important. And so when we center our civilization around her and create balance with the feminine and masculine, then we have success. And that's what's happening. So these light codes were in the Israeli people, the Hebrew people. And remember, the sisterhood of Isis is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sun, Ra. And then the angelic form is El. That's what is Ra El means.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the unification of masculine and feminine in an angelic or divine way. So the Metatron knew that there were still the Lemurian light codes in the Hebrew people, and he couldn't activate them there when they were slaves in Egypt. So he had to get them to a place of activation, and 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 there's a little bit of mystery around this. I don't think that mountain was in the Sinai Peninsula. I believe it was over in Kashmir. And over in Kashmir, there's a Meru pillar. It's everybody has a Meru pillar. There's a Meru mountain in Kashmir, India. There's one in Pakistan, and there's also one in Tibet, and they call that Mount Kailash is the Meru pillar there. And it's probably Kailash would be my guess, but we just don't know. But somewhere in there's a crystal pyramid, and if you commune with it, it will change and shift everything. So the Metatron says, look, I can't get the mountain to you, but I can get you to the mountain. And so that's what he did. So he facilitated the movement of all these people to get to Mount Horeb, where Moses went up on the mountain. And that's where the Metatron says, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to infuse you with light, and you're going to take on your light body, because we can do that one at a time, but we got to do it with a lot of people, because we've got to achieve the 100th monkey of humanity. Okay, I just used the word 100th monkey of humanity. So that's the number of collective consciousness for a species, where if there's like 100 monkeys doing something, then all of the monkeys will do it.
Yeah,
So
critical
that
mass. Critical mass.
critical mass. Yeah. So there's a great description of that in Drunvalo Melchizedek's book, Ancient Secrets of the Flowers of Life. But just look it up. Look up 100th monkey. It's an important concept. And as it turns out, it is the square root of 1% of a civilization. So for 8 billion souls on the planet right now, that's 2,828 people here on the planet now. Okay. That's not that many people. That's pretty
No.
cool. Okay. So the 100th monkey, we had enough people in the Hebrew group to achieve that. So we just had to get them to the source of light so we could activate them. So the Metatron essentially was controlling a star chamber. Now remember, if you're going to travel through folded space, you have to become starlight, and then you can travel through folded space. You can't have any physicality about you. So your physical being and your spiritual being are combined, you become a being of light. You can also reach into the future, into the past, and become a being of light. You can also reach into your masculine and feminine and come together and become a being of light. You can also do what Yeshua and Mary Magdalene did, and use Tantra and use sacred union to come together to become a being of light. So anytime you integrate, you can become illuminated, and you can become a being of light. But the problem is all the star chambers are shut down for good reason, because we can't allow these laggard souls to get off the planet. So the Metatron says, all right, I'm going to give you 2 stones, one on the right and one on the left of the star chamber, 6 hands by 6 hands by 8 hands. And you and Aaron are going to drag these stones off the mountain. And if you put them into a box, I'll give you the dimensions, and balance your masculine and feminine, the black angel, feminine, the white angel, masculine, and then sit on top of the box. Remember, the box had a mercy seat on it. The Ark of the Covenant has a mercy seat on it where you're supposed to
Oh,
sit on
wow.
the thing. And if you sit on that, then you will take on your light body. And if we can get enough people doing that, then we'll achieve the 100th monkey of humanity, and that light wave will go around the entire planet and will restore everybody back into their ancient Lemurian light being, Homo luminous. So Moses comes down off the mountain and he looks at the Israeli people, and it's like, oh, you backslid. You guys are going into bad habits.
Mm.
You're not worthy. And he smashed the stones. And the Metatron's like, Oy vey, Moses, just follow instructions, you know. But that one single act plunged us into thousands of years of
Mm.
war. So he still put the broken pieces inside the box, but now it was all jumbled up and then it was electrified. So if you touch that thing, you get electrocuted. So they use these really long poles, you know, to carry it around. So he messed the whole thing up, goes back up onto the mountain and creates the shout knots, the rules. He's like, you guys need
Mm.
rules. So then he chiseled out the rules and then he gave them to the people. So that's what's happening.
Actually, I
So
climbed Mount Sinai with the Israeli army way back when.
oh, that'd be fun. That would be
Yeah.
so cool to do.
Yeah, it
That'd
was
be
like when in my 20s, and I had been to
yeah.
Bethlehem, and I
Uh,
got I was in the manger, and they said, "Who wants a blessing?" I said, "I do." So, and then I went up Mount Sinai with the Israeli army, and then we went down to Ras Mohammed to do snorkeling. So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
One of these days I'll get there. That sounds wonderful. I mean, you're a well-traveled, educated woman. I really appreciate you, Carol. Okay, so then the Metatron goes, okay, that's not going to work. If we give a really great gift to one single human, they'll covet it. They'll build a temple around it where nobody can have access to it. They'll put it inside of a tent, inside of a tent, inside of a tent, and put a big stone structure around that. And only one Levite priest can go in and commune with it one time a year. It's like, that's not the purpose of the Ark of the Covenant. You're supposed to sit on that sucker and take on your light body. Says, okay, we're scrapping that. That didn't work. So then plan B was if you can get people in a sacred chamber, a lodge with sacred geometry, and we'll flow in and everybody on the same level, no one person greater than the other, elect a person for a year term and then they step down. And if you do that and you can be fair and not grapple for power, then we will flow in the masculine, the white, and the feminine, the black, you know, from 90 degrees and create the checkered tiles, and then magic will bubble up through those tiles, so your prayers and intentions will be answered. And that created the ancient order of Melchizedek, which also then moved into Rosicrucians, Thule Society, Masonry, and so on and so on and so on. So it's pretty good. How are we doing on time? How long have we been going
Oh, we've
here?
been going 2 hours, almost
Oh,
2 hours. So, yeah,
okay. So
got to save
so
some.
yeah, we're gonna save some because I'm not gonna be able to get this into 3 series. I'm sorry.
We can
It's
do
probably
4.
gonna it's probably gonna take 4. So if you're okay with that, this is a good stopping
Absolutely.
point. And what we're going to do is we're going to begin with the Christ story next time. The Christ story. So, if you're getting this information as I'm telling you these stories, just remember that you already know this.
Yeah.
And as I tell the story, I'm activating your ancient memories to go online. And then when that happens,
I'm scribbling as fast as
yeah,
possible because
yeah,
go in and look for
right.
different information and
Yeah, and when that happens, just know that your memories, I'm restoring your memory, and
yeah,
that's coming online. And you'll get like when somebody says something and you get the chills in your body or you get the goosebumps, you
yeah.
know, that sort of thing. That's your body saying, yes, this is correct. So listen to your intuition. And all this stuff I'm telling you is from like, look at all these books, you
Yeah.
know, this is only 1/3 of my library. So it's from, thousands of books. It's from meeting with spiritual elders. The indigenous people have such a beautiful story too. It's from traveling to different temple sites. It's from doing my own meditation, astral travel, hypnotherapy, where we're accessing past lives. And the thing that I did was I went on a 4-year walkabout through Asia, and then I moved to a spiritual community and set up a yurt, no electricity, running water, or cell phone, and I meditated for 10 years and let the earth and nature and the cosmos have its way with me. And I woke up. I woke
Yeah.
up, and I contain memories for about 230,000 years ago, and I don't have everything, but I have a lot, and so that's what I'm delivering to you. And so I'm an eyewitness through my ancient memories, and so that's what we're getting to. So I'm hoping, that through the telling of this story, that we'll access your memories and it'll bring your ancient memories online, and that would be my goal,
Well, it
with your group,
stirs up the
Carol.
cellular memory. I mean,
Yeah,
it's still in us, right? And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
going
It's
to ask
very
you one thing about the owl. You said something about the
the owl.
owl.
Yeah.
Yeah, in East
Huh?
Coast. Is that why Washington D.C. has an owl? Like the whole
Do you mean the geometry of Washington D.C.?
yeah, yeah, is the shape
Okay,
of an
well,
owl.
yeah, I mean it's the shape of many. No, it's not that, but
Oh, okay. Because
I mean there's many different shapes that come out of that. So remember we said that the Rochelle priests were the ones that they were supposed to be taking care of the grids, and they destroyed them. So all Rochelle priest souls, there's a safety system that was put, so there's a single, where am I? There's a single soul, and then it
yeah.
got refracted into 5 souls. So one single Rochelle priest is now incarnating as 5 different humans, and then we didn't want to disturb what they do or what they know. So all we did was just took all of those 5 souls and phase shifted it and rotated it. So they're operating in a different phase. They're still operating, they can still do the work and do all the things. And then we had another group that could manage the grids, and those are the Knights Templars.
Mm.
So the Knights Templars, then they came on to manage the grids and the ley lines, and we'll talk about that in part 4 now, not part 3.
Yeah.
And the Hopi on Third Mesa actually called in the Knights Templars for protection, and they gridded North America. They warded it with sacred geometry, and that's why our cities have all of the sacred geometry in it. Is to protect us and keep the
Mhm.
laggard souls out, and that's what's happening. But it's all being compromised, and we're gonna get to
Yeah.
the end of the story, I promise you. So yeah. So anyway,
Well,
just again, remember I'm in Crestone, Colorado, at
yeah.
the Mystic Mountain Retreat House. That's an 8-bedroom retreat house. If you'd like to come up and visit, you can do a 4-day retreat in the house, or if you want to do an expedition, you can come up onto the mountain and hike with us. The next one is on September 21st, the Equinox expedition. We're losing our window for weather, so if you feel like you'd like to come and experience the Ascended Masters Retreat in the high dimensional realms where heaven and earth touch here in Crestone, please come. It's the most incredible thing you'll ever experience. I'm blown away every time I go up there, and I've been up there, 6 times a year since 2012. So that's
Wow. 12 times.
66. Yeah, it's a lot of times. I can't even keep
60,
track of it.
72,
Yeah,
72.
yeah. Oh,
Something like
good.
that.
I'm glad somebody can do math.
Yeah.
I got a degree in engineering, and you beat me. Oh goodness. So yeah, so just do that. And then the other thing too is just look for me. You can find me on Facebook as Wonder Bob, and I do more events and things there. On Instagram, Wonder Bob, I do more like lectures and things there. And then on YouTube, Wonder Bob on YouTube, I do more music
Yeah.
there. So I'm
All
I'm
the
not as
links will be
savvy.
in the link
Yeah,
in your description
yeah,
below. So
I'm not as savvy as I should be, but I'm pretty unique. There's not too many Wonder Bobs out there. Just do
yeah.
Wonder Bob, and you'll find me, and we'll do that. So, but Carol, I really appreciate you creating the container and doing what you're doing. I love these hands around you because the 13 grandmothers are here
Yeah.
this weekend, and they're
And
all coming
also
together. Yeah,
this is
yeah,
actually Mary Magdalene holding the egg. And
yeah. There you go.
it's 100, the print is 153, which is
Yeah.
a Mary Magdalene number, because when you cast, or I guess people talk about casting the net to the right, the fishermen caught 153 fish, right? So
Oh, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, there's
That's
lots
that's
of
a
things.
9.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
a 9.
9.
It's
So
a
when you apply a
brow
9 to
again.
anything else, it's that same thing. So 9 plus 5 is a 14, and the 1 and the 4 is a 5. 9 plus
Yeah.
12 is oh gosh, anyway, it goes like that. So
I'm a
it's
6.
pretty clever.
My
There are
destiny,
6.
yeah, 246 actually, which is
Well, that means you're an incredible loving woman then. You're the frequency of love.
yeah, Christ
So it's good.
consciousness.
Yeah, so I've simplified it a lot. I know some
Yeah,
of the numerologists will cringe at me, but 1 is like new beginnings, new
yeah,
creation. 2 is companionship, partnership. 3
cooperation. Yeah.
is yeah, 3 is physicality, also expansion like Jupiter. 4 is intelligence, but also the elements. 5 is all life and nature. 6 is love. 7 is magic. 8 is choice. Like, are you going to do dominance, or are you going to surrender it into infinity? 9 is completion, getting rid of that which doesn't serve you. 10 is convergence. 11 is transformation. 12 is building. And 13, the big 13, is complete restoration. So
Oh,
those are the
wonderful.
numbers I play with, but we can also play with angels and colors and all that other stuff too. It's all good. So I would just encourage everybody, to listen to conscious lectures like what Carol's doing, and support her the best you can, because she's creating her livelihood out of this. And if you get a chance to just contribute to her and do whatever, you can to help, it's stepping out of the matrix and getting into, the real work. We just need to do a better job supporting people, doing that. Get some of these books and read them. Read conscious books. Clean up your food. Try to eat conscious food, and listen to conscious music. Hang out with conscious friends, and go to conscious activities. And if you do all that stuff, Shazam, you might get
Yeah,
conscious. So,
exactly. Or come to Heaven and Earth
it's good that way.
Sanctuary. That's my name of my
Yeah.
retreat, Heaven and Earth Sanctuary.
Oh,
So
beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful. Maybe I can, maybe we can converge there in the winter or something like that.
yeah,
It'd be
it's
fun to
beautiful.
do.
I'm on
Yeah,
Mount Chirripo.
yeah.
Chirripo means eternal waters. And
Oh, that's
I'm in
beautiful.
a vortex here. It's the highest mountain in Costa
Nice.
Rica. And if you
Oh,
climb it,
great.
you can see the Pacific and the Atlantic at the same time. And we're
Nice.
halfway between Bermuda Triangle, comes right through here to Easter Islands. There's another
Oh,
ley
great. There's a
line.
ley
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
there.
So
Yeah, when I
yeah,
was in Costa
lots.
Rica, I had a profound energetic experience. I could tell I was on an energetic line. I was on a dragon line, and it worked with me. It worked me
Ah,
pretty hard. But I just want to leave you with one
okay,
last thing and let you know
absolutely.
that, the way and the practice is love, loving kindness. Do everything that you possibly can to operate from love. And just remember that, that Carol loves you and Wonder Bob loves you. And you have a group of people around that love you so much, and they all know that love is the way, love is the answer. This is our practice, make it your practice. Do something kind for somebody, give somebody a hug, look at somebody and put some loving words, to what they're doing. It's like, oh, I see that project that you're doing. So that's beautiful. Great job. And let's be helpful and encouraging. And there is such an epic quality of love that we're pulling through. It's beyond humanity's comprehension. And this frequency of love is transforming and changing the entire world. And all you have to do is hold a vision for what you'd like to have for your life and for the earth. And if it's based on love, the magic will flow through it in a way that is unimaginable. And the synchronicities come up. And when they do, just giggle and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, universe. Thank you, love. And so let's be that. So thank you.
Yeah, just a reminder for everyone. Thanks to our listeners. Without you, we have nothing. And Wonder Bob is actually taking us through a school of remembering through this series. And the more you listen to it, the more it'll activate. And also sign up for my free ebook, which is The Body Never Lies. That's wonderful. And remember, what is it? Earth Stoke Summit this weekend?
Earth Stock.
Stock.
Yeah.
Stock. I put
E-
Stokes.
yeah.
Stock.
STOCK. Earthstocksummit.com.
Okay. And it'll be in
And
the
I'll,
description. So, I mean,
mm,
connecting with the elders of the tribes from around the world is absolutely phenomenal too. And yeah, honoring them by getting like listening to what they have to say. Everyone has a message. So,
Right.
well, thank you, Bob. We're gonna
Okay. Well,
close with
bless you
that,
all.
and we'll see you in part 3, and I'll arrange that in the next day or two. What works
Okay.
for you?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Much
All right.
love.
Blessings.
Mwah.
All right. Much love. Cheers.